Welcome to GME Admin Insights. I am your host, Natasha Brox, and I'm thrilled to be with you here today. Um, Negotiations. Let's talk about it. Okay, let's talk about it. So somebody asked me about negotiations. How do you negotiate? Like they're scared to negotiate. They usually just take what is given to them. And I told them, no, 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 baby. Don't do that. Right? So when you negotiate, this is where you have the power, okay? But let's reverse. Let's take it on back to why you negotiate. So, negotiation starts when you're in the interview, right? You know how they always say interviews are not just to see if they like you, but it's also for us, it's like, do we like them? What do we have to do? What is this job really entailing, right? So for all we all know, we all know, well, most of us, but the majority of us, we know that GME is a complex world, right? It's very complex. It has a lot of moving parts. It has things coming down on us all the time, right? All the time. So we know kind of what to expect. We know what to expect. So when you're in an interview and you're interviewing and they're talking, you have to listen specifically to what they're saying, right? And then you have to ask the questions. Okay, so I'm a program coordinator. Now you're hiring for, just say, a Jimmy manager. Okay, is this a new role? Okay, it's not a new role. Okay, so how long has the role been vacant? Why hasn't any other coordinator that currently works here stepped into this role? What do you see this role? Um, what do you envision this role within the first 6 months? Like, where do you want this role to navigate to? Like, what's your 6 months goal for this role? Okay, so, but let's just say if it was a new role. Okay, so still, where do you see this go? Where do you see this role in 6 months? Okay, so it's a new role, so it has to be created. So you want guidelines, policies, procedures, you got to train. Like you have to calculate the work that you will be doing in the role that you are interviewing for, right? I don't think a lot of people understand that. When you're interviewing and they are speaking, listen to what they are saying, ask the questions that, hmm, okay, but this doesn't make sense. So let me ask you, because then you have to calculate how much time, effort, stress, energy that you have to put in that role. And if this role is a new role, you're creating it. That's a lot of work that you have to do, right? Because it's new. You have to pull the resources together. You have to create the policies. You have to, build on what's not there. So you have to create the foundation in order to build. How much is that worth to you? Okay. But if it's an existing role, okay, think, what am I walking into? Why doesn't anyone else want this role? You know, is it going to be a lot of stress? Is it going to be a lot of hate? Is it going to be a lot of, you know, when you open the books that it's all wrong and then you have to clean up stuff and organize stuff first before you can really work yourself? How much is that going to cost? I think about all of that when I go to my role, when I interview for a position. I think about all of that. So that way, when I get to the negotiation part, I can say, well, since this is a new role and I have to create, I have to build, I have to, yeah, I understand that. I'll have help doing that, but 90% is me. 80% is me. 70% is me. It doesn't make a difference. I still have to do the work. I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to train. I got to, hmm. Okay. So with everything that I have to build from scratch, I'm gonna need this much. Or, so this is an existing role. I don't know what I'm walking into. I may have to clean up a lot of stuff because you know that we always do before I can really work, which means a lot of work for me. And then you have that XYZ, the unknown, that you don't know what else really will be put on your plate. Mhm. And then I always account for the E and anything else added. Okay, well, if anything else is added, I need something added to my pay because you already know we always get more things added. So I think ahead and be like, okay, well, this is how much I'm going to need for everything that I'm going to do and anything else that is added to me. So that way, when things are added, I still am comfortable with all of this extra work because I've already negotiated for it. I don't walk in blind. So negotiation is key. Know your strategy on what you're going to do. That's why it's very important in the interview to ask those questions, to listen to what they're saying. You may already have your questions already formulated, right? But then as they talk, other questions will come to mind. Ask those questions because what they say, you're going to be like, okay, well, but what about that? Like, so tell me more, or how do y'all navigate that, or what? So that way, you know, one, what you're walking into. I mean, it's still gonna be a mystery, but what you're walking into, how much you need to add on your salary, and never be afraid to negotiate. Because I'm gonna tell you something. We all know that they have that low, that medium, and that high, right? But if you're at negotiations, they already want you. Never take the first thing that they give you. I'm saying my mother's a corporate queen, okay? The corporate queen and the grievance queen, but she was the corporate queen. So I would always listen to her on the phone, negotiating everything. I mean, and we talking about this is back in the 80s and 90s, right? This is back in the day. She would negotiate everything. And I'm like, you're gonna get fired. She get what she want. She would always start high. And I'm just not saying with salary, right? She would negotiate her time, her flex. Like she was negotiating before negotiation was negotiations, okay? And I just always thought she was in a battle, but she wasn't. She wasn't. She was just like, no. Like she went from Ameritech, she was an electrician climbing them poles. Like, okay, this is I got kids, I'm gonna climb poles. If I get hurt, boom, boom, just everything, right? And so when I started, growing up and really getting, in the GME world, really getting job, I'm like, oh mom. I remember once she was sitting next to me, listening to the conversation, and I'm negotiating. She's like, no, you want this. And I'm like, okay, so I say that, okay, well, let me get back with them because they'll call back, okay, they can have that. Okay, you want that. Like literally, she was boom, boom, boom. No, no, they could do this. They could, I mean, right next to me one day. I was just like, oh my God. And I was nervous, but I'm like, hey, you either take me or you don't, because I had another job on the side negotiate. I'm good negotiating with them too. So you have to negotiate, but you also have to listen to what they're saying because sometimes it's not worth it and you need to walk away, right, from the table. And sometimes it is. I've turned down so many jobs that was paying 20 to $30,000 more than what I'm making because things did not sound right. Things did not add up. And thankfully, I'm so thankful I did because you know how they say all money ain't good money? Right. Because when it played out, it was a horrible. I saw them in that position and it just started turning over, turning over, turn. All money ain't good money. I don't care how much you was paying me. When I was asking certain questions and, it just didn't sound right. It didn't sit with my soul. So all the money in the world could not get me to take it. And so you have to really think about those things. So when you negotiate, ask the questions and listen, and then add up what you want. Even though they have a price on the job description, right? They may say, "Oh, this is a $90,000, salary." No, it's not. It at the low end, but okay, well, you want me to do this, this, and this. I know my worth. I know what I bring to the table. I know my skills. I know what I have. I'm gonna need 120. Well, that's 30,000. Okay. It's either 120 or not. Being another thing my mother always told me, start high. So let's say if I wanted that 120, I'll say 150, 160, right? Now, be prepared for them to be like, oh, you want 160? Okay, knock your socks off. That happened to me. I was like, what? I didn't have to negotiate. They just automatically took it. But sometimes they will be like, we're gonna offer you, 90,000. You be like, yeah, but because of this, this, and this, I really want 160. And then they'll come back and be like, okay, well, they won't give you 160, but they'll give you 140. But in your head, you was 120. You'll take it, right? That's negotiation. But never be afraid to do what you have to do, say what you have to say, know your worth, know the dollar amount and everything that you have to do. And really, at the end of the day, make sure you always account for that E and anything that's added to you. That's it. That's it. That's all. Account for that E because there's always going to be something added to you. We've talked about it, we discussed it, now go and execute it. Get the salary that you deserve, negotiate everything that you want, okay? And with that, that concludes another enlightening episode of Jimmy Edmond Insights with your girl, Natasha, and I will be back with you. Have a good day, everyone.